By now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Trump's major announcement being his latest NFT. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I'll promise you this. There's a lot of conservative influencers out there who are not going to want you to listen to and heed the words I'm about to say to you, but I'm going to say them all the same. And I will also say this. If this video does serve to offend you, it's probably going to say more about you than it does about me. So without further ado, let's get into it. Many individuals heard the announcement Trump made yesterday talking about his upcoming major announcement, and people were wondering what form this would take. And this morning, it was revealed that Trump was launching NFTs. Now, I'm not a big NFT person, don't really quite understand them myself, but I do know this. I saw so many individuals come out of the woodworks, even individuals who were formerly on Trump's side or in his camp, saying how they couldn't believe that Trump would do this now, or this is tone deaf, this is a slap in the face to the hardworking Americans to try to sell them something that cost $99. And my question to those people is, seriously? Because if you actually look at many of even the conservative influencers out there themselves who called this latest move into question, I would argue they themselves are guilty of very much the same. Now, I will say this. I do agree that as of the current political climate, that was a terrible, terrible decision to make. And it far overshadowed Trump's later announcement talking about what he would do if he was to reclaim the White House in 2024 with regards to free speech and restoring free speech both in person and online. But of course, that was overshadowed by the bigger announcement, the NFT flop, as it were. I'm not sure why that was the tack he chose to take. And I've seen many individuals, many of you out there watching right now, in certain political influencers' comments talking about how I can't believe Trump would do this. This is more evidence of why I want DeSantis to win or to run in 2024 and so on and so forth. But I bet you didn't know this. Back in May of this year, DeSantis had a political fundraiser wherein he was selling baseball cards and memorabilia in very much the same manner that Trump is doing right now. But because that did not gain as much attention as individuals are giving the Trump announcement now, people are all too happy to let DeSantis's actions in the past just take a back seat. And I'm not going to sit here and say how you should fundraise or not. That is the individual person's decision, and they will make those decisions as they see fit. Many out there are also saying that while Trump was making this NFT announcement, DeSantis was signing legislation to reduce the toll costs for commuters in Florida. Again, a very admirable decision. But these are finite moments in time. Individuals right now are doing their very best to pick and choose who they're going to support much in advance of the 2024 election. Now, I don't want to go back to the point I made just a few minutes ago. And that point was individuals saying they can't believe that Trump would try to sell NFTs or $99 NFTs to his followers as some sort of fundraising effort. But I would counter, especially for those conservative influencers out there who have chosen to call this latest action into question. Many of them are guilty of the very same actions themselves. Many individuals who are even watching this video, you own probably several pieces of merchandise that was sold to you by a particular conservative influencer whenever they chose to bring their merchandise to the fore. And the reason I find this so intellectually dishonest and ideologically dishonest is because individuals out there will pan Trump for his choice to come out with these ill-advised NFTs, but they allow many of the conservative influencers to get a free pass. You see so many of these conservative influencers going to these large events or promoting certain events and saying you should buy your ticket to here or there. And I would tell you this. For the vast majority, especially of those large influencers at the very, very top, the ones you see all the time, they themselves are the ones who for the last several years have done everything in their power to sell you, I would argue, equally useless products as a contingency on your support for that individual. There's so many times where we've seen individuals choose to sell shirts or buy this book or go to this event. And most of the time, many of those events, the individuals will be more than happy to line up for and try to get a picture with an influencer. Those influencers are paid to be there. Some of the biggest influencers out there will charge 4, 5, or even 6 figures just to go and speak to an event. This happened a lot all throughout COVID when there was lots of restrictions in place and people couldn't even afford what they normally could afford. But they were all too happy to sell you a t-shirt or to sell you a book or to sell you tickets to some event where you would go there, take pictures, go home, and then life would resume as normal. Many of these influencers know this. And the issue that I have with individuals right now who are choosing to say, see, this is proof of why I don't want to support Trump anymore. It's because I would argue deep down, embedded in the average conservative subconscious, is a desperate desire to win. And you can say you would support DeSantis all you want. But then in 2024, when you go to the polls again, and when your mantra is, oh, we're just going to vote harder this time, we know the left will do the same thing they did in 2022 and 2020. Doesn't matter who we are running on the right side of the aisle. And as far as Trump's concerned, he had opportunities when he was president to enact legislation that would help keep him from even being banned from social media in the first place. He had an infamous speech in the Rose Garden. And wouldn't you know, many of the biggest influencers in the game, they were sitting right there front and center, all too happy for another photo op, because they could post that photo on social media and know that they could use that photo to encourage you to continue to support them, to give them likes, give them clicks, to buy their merchandise. And no demonstrable action came from that. And we are all suffering the consequences of that lack of action. But those influencers themselves were all too happy to be invited to the White House to this Rose Garden speech and say that they're fighting for us. And many people who support these influencers will say, oh, thank you for fighting for us. I want to go meet you at an event. I want to see you in the airport. I want to sit on the plane next to you when you put your cell phone out and record a video of yourself with a MAGA shirt on, looking at other people, hoping they acknowledge your existence. And they consider that to be fighting for them. It is because the average conservative individual out there today has equivocated the art of self-promotion with being a true advocate. There are so many actions the average person can take, but it is not glamorous. And even these big, large influencers, they know this too. They'd much rather find ways to continue to extract money from you, to sell you useless merchandise that is only temporarily relevant, to encourage you to buy a new book they made that's going to have information you already know. People ask me all the time, why do you continue to talk about the conservative influencers? Because they are the ones on our side who shape what our collective consciousness usually is. And if they are the ones who will now turn around and pretend to be offended by Trump launching an NFT, however ill-advised that may be, without telling you the full story about what DeSantis has done in the past, and while still expecting you to go out of your way to support them, to continue to fund their opulent lifestyles, so they can run around and take pictures at Mar-a-Lago and go to these fancy events and better their lives and their livelihoods, and just ask you to pay another $30 for a t-shirt that is going to also have a shipping charge attached that took them 5 minutes to create. Who are you serving at that point? We have to stop with this hero worship. We have to return to a state of ideological consistency, wherein whatever some large influencer thinks does not predicate or dictate the way you think about the topics of the day. That's the thought I want to leave you with. Because in these crazy times that we're in, all too often people will seize on one particular thing and use that to justify their support or lack of support for one person or another. It's as if you are trying to build a foundation on sinking sands. And we all know from the old songs, we don't build our foundation on sinking sands, we build our foundation on the rock. And we all know who the rock is. So instead of looking for individuals to save you or to do everything you want them to do, we know who that individual is, and that's Jesus Christ. So stop looking at these influencers and allowing them to tell you what the temperature is in the room. If you truly are offended by Trump launching an NFT, then you better never buy another piece of merchandise from any influencer ever again. Otherwise, you are saying and communicating that you will continue to support other influencers who will sell you equally useless merchandise. But whenever Trump does something, that's a problem. And disregard the fact that DeSantis did very much the same thing back in May of this year. That's the thought for this video. Think about it, share it, and start living your life differently. Get out and away from social media and begin digesting and understanding the world for yourself. That's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching.